First at 11, Deere & Company is responding to former President Donald Trump's threat to put a 200% tariff on products the company tries to sell into the U.S. Trump made the comment during a campaign stop in Pennsylvania on Monday.
John Deere is moving some production from Iowa to Mexico.
John Deere making a big change to where they manufacture their farming equipment, leading to hundreds of U.S. layoffs.
I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States.
Powering the fields that feed the country, John Deere has been a symbol of American tenacity for many centuries. The green and yellow behemoth is currently relocating parts of its production line from the United States to Mexico. Donald Trump's proposal of punishing tariffs to keep such jobs domestic has sparked a quick pushback. The battle is greater than factories or tractors. Could this be the turning point for American production? What does it imply for American jobs, American farmers, and the future of American-made machinery if even the most recognizable brands are moving south? John Deere has been a representation of American farming might for over 185 years. Its yellow and green machines swept through small villages and boundless countryside. In addition to providing employment, such machines have given generations of people a sense of stability based on custom. However, that tradition is undergoing a significant change now. The firm stated in July 2024 that it would close numerous plants in the United States, eliminating 600 jobs in Iowa, Illinois, and other states. Another 287 jobs will disappear by 2025, indicating a more significant reorganization driven by financial strains that prevented operations to continue as usual rather than a brief interruption. The story is revealed by the numbers. Deere sales fell 18% in the second quarter, and the prediction indicates further declines are in store. Deere have been forced to reduce production when warehouses are full because to farmers' reluctance to make additional purchases due to high loan rates and declining crop prices. Due to the downturn, a drastic decision was made to shift small loader production to Mexico by 2026. For business leaders, it's a crucial survival tactic. It feels like a betrayal of ancestry to many Americans. Additionally, it has taken the brunt of political criticism in Washington. Framing the fight as one of loyalty to American farmers and workers, President Donald Trump has threatened to impose a 200% tariff if Deere sends more work across the border. However, this conflict extends much beyond a single business. It touches on important aspects of trade policy, worldwide rivalry, and the shaky connections between national identity and business survival. Although the financial burden is evident, tariffs have made it worse. According to Deere's most recent quarterly report, the tariffs cost the company $100 million in revenues, and it anticipates losing $500 million by 2025. The forestry and construction sectors, which rely significantly on international markets, are experiencing the most intense sting. Deere is responding by shifting its global production footprint to keep costs under control and advocating for relief under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Pact. However, these kinds of improvements take time to manifest. Contractors and farmers have already received warnings that price rises of up to 4% are possible on equipment for 2026. Customers who are already trapped between declining incomes and growing spending bear a heavy burden. In order to stay ahead of a trading situation that could alter suddenly, Deere's engineers and attorneys are frantically renegotiating supply contracts and redesigning production timetables behind the public figures. However, the future is still unknown despite the creation of numerous initiatives. The headlines about industrial transfers and tariffs have a much more personal meaning for communities throughout the Midwest. Since 2020, Deere reorganized operations have resulted in the loss of about 1,800 jobs in Iowa. Families that previously depended on reliable payrolls now have to make difficult decisions. Layoffs hit Ankeny and Ottumwa in 2025 alone, laying off 119 and 75 workers, respectively, sending shockwaves across local economies based on small-town resiliency and factory jobs. John Deere is more than just a place of employment in these locations. It contributes to the identity of the community. Main streets with stores that rely on employee spending are now beset by shuttered stores and waning hope. In response to what many perceive to be broken promises, Iowa lawmakers have introduced proposals to reclaim tax credits from businesses that eliminate jobs. Executives claim that the layoffs are due to market conditions rather than a lack of concern for communities. But for the families left behind, that justification doesn't make sense. The loss goes beyond financial sheet figures. It attacks trust. Once a sign of security, the green and yellow emblem now raises concerns about loyalty and the price of international competitiveness. Additionally, even though the human toll is harsh within the factory, it doesn't end at the gates. Farmers who have been the company's most devoted partners for a long time are at a crossroads of their own. Growers in the Farm Belt are facing a dismal financial outlook. Loans for new equipment are now much more expensive due to high interest rates. Incomes have also been affected by declining crop prices. Important export markets have been shut down by trade wars, severely compressing margins. In spite of the growing need for repairs, many farmers are delaying new purchases and keeping their older equipment in order to extend its useful life for another season. Once bustling with new sales, local dealerships now face challenges as during crucial planting and harvest periods, demand switches to used equipment, resulting in part shortages and repair delays that exacerbate discontent. The burden is psychological as well as monetary. In markets that seem unstable, farmers are reluctant to take on new risks, and this hesitancy has an impact well beyond the fields. Local businesses suffer, dealers lose commissions, and equipment manufacturers lose sales. Losing clients. Every purchase that stalls has an impact on the economy as a whole. Although trust has long been the foundation of John Deere's business, producing dependable machinery is no longer enough to uphold that faith. It entails demonstrating to farmers that the organization supports them during times of uncertainty, even while the commercial environment imposes difficult choices. Deere are not fleeing America in spite of these hardships. The business has actually revealed a bold plan to invest $20 billion in its U.S. operations over the course of the next 10 years. The funds will be used to enhance workforce training initiatives, construct new facilities, and modernize outdated plants. Initiatives include an excavator plant in Kernersville, North Carolina, new assembly lines in Waterloo, Iowa, and improvements at the remanufacturing facility in Missouri. It's an obvious message. Deere plans to continue to play a significant role in American manufacturing. However, success is not always assured by ambition alone. The difficulty will be demonstrating that these expenditures result in workers' stability and farmers' renewed self-confidence, while they wonder if their long-term relationship is leaving. Despite the billions invested, development is threatened by another barrier. Deere are trapped in the instability of the global supply chain, which is still brittle. Shipping delays, rising steel prices, and chip shortages have extended production timelines by several months. Once on-time deliveries are now subject to lengthy wait times, endangering construction projects and planting seasons. Relationships with clients who depend on reliable equipment and service are strained by these delays. DI has joined federal logistics projects designed to combat the disruption, increasing the efficiency and visibility of cargo. In order to lessen susceptibility, it is also redrawing its global manufacturing map and advocating for tariff exclusions under the USMCA. Although some of the pressure may be reduced by these initiatives, uncertainty still exists. Farmers and contractors are aware that a season's profitability can be influenced by timing or disastrous. Every delay erodes confidence, and changing policies alone won't be enough to restore it. Deere will have to prove that its machines will be operational when clients need them most. When combined, these factors put one of America's most recognizable corporations at a crossroads. Plant shutdowns and employment losses draw attention to the unpleasant realities of a changing economy. Its capacity to compete in international markets is put to the test by tariffs and trade conflicts. Bottlenecks in the supply chain highlight weaknesses that money cannot fix on its own. Nevertheless, the $20 billion investment in U.S. enterprises demonstrates that they are not abandoning their heritage. Rather, it is attempting to adjust, striking a balance between fidelity to the farmers and communities that helped establish its reputation and survival in the global economy. The dilemma for workers is whether these investments would result in additional instability or stable employment. For farmers, the question is whether their reliable supplier can keep providing the equipment they require at costs they can afford. Additionally, for the nation, it is whether a world where economic pressures are becoming more unpredictable can be navigated by one of its most illustrious manufacturers. Now, John Deere must decide whether to change fast enough to maintain its position at the center of American society or risk losing it. Additionally, John Deere's choice to forecast reduced profits and issue a warning about rising costs from tariffs was about an industry experiencing increasing hardship, not about a single quarter setback. Production lines for tractors are slowing down. The number of truck assembly plants is declining. Additionally, hesitancy casts a shadow over the agricultural machinery industry. Previously, farmers would order new models every few instead of buying new things. Seasons are now clinging to what they currently have and depending on maintenance and parts. When crop prices decline and borrowing costs increase, this is the sensible course of action. However, that same realism creates a vicious circle of issues of its own. Maintenance is increased by aging fleets. Repairs increase in costly, and reliance on strained supply systems increases. On the farm, every choice has consequences in terms of money and time. An entire year of labor can be derailed if a combine breaks down in the middle of harvest season. Furthermore, a damaged part becomes more expensive when tariffs raise the cost of imported electronics or components. A setback might become a catastrophe if replacements are not found quickly enough. An idle machine is much more than a technical annoyance in rural America. It has the potential to reduce yields, mess up supply systems, and affect the cost of food on store shelves. Here, trade policy, which is frequently discussed in distant capitals, translates straight into the bread, meat, and produce that are readily available in typical homes. Tariffs seem like a straightforward system, but in reality, things are complicated. Customs duties increase when import levies are raised, and manufacturers try to pass those costs on to customers. However, businesses frequently find it impossible to transfer the cost when markets are already under strain, completely upon customers. This disparity affects the balance sheets of businesses, putting pressure on profits and causing decisions that lead to lower output or job losses. Results for John Deere differ depending on the division. In thriving metropolitan markets, construction equipment can occasionally absorb higher pricing, while farm gear is closely linked to the cycles of commodities prices and crop cycles. Capacity is reduced if margins are tight. Jobs vanish when capacity decreases. Local tax bases in communities connected to those factories decline. Services deteriorate, and households bear the consequences of trade conflicts settled distant from home. For the equation is much clearer for farmers. 3 factors determine the cost of machinery: the equipment's initial cost, the interest rates used to spread out the payments over time, and the maintenance costs over time. 2 of them are directly impacted by tariffs. They raise sticker prices by increasing the cost of basic materials. They gain money by raising the cost of imported parts, more costly to maintain. Monetary policy continues to determine interest rates. Furthermore, it is unlikely that borrowing prices will decrease rapidly as long as inflation remains a concern. The Federal Reserve will maintain rates if tariffs continue to drive up prices, which will put farmers in a difficult situation. The outcome comes after